African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of November 30th, 2025. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue to conduct a special military operation. The troops of the North Group inflicted defeat on formations of 2 mechanized and airborne assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements Sadki, Pavlovka, Khoten, and Khrapovshchchina in the Sumy region and the city of Sumy. In the Kharkiv direction, defeat was inflicted on units of 3 mechanized and motorized infantry brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements Mitrofanivka, Vilcha, Ploske, and Volchansk in the Kharkiv region. The enemy lost over 110 servicemen and 6 vehicles. The troops of the West Group improved their tactical position. Defeat was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 4 mechanized brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements Monokonivka, Samborivka, Bohuslavka, Kucherivka, Kurilivka, Kupiansk-Uzlovyi, and Podoli in the Kharkiv region. Losses of the armed forces of Ukraine amounted to up to 220 servicemen, 13 vehicles, and a Croatian-made RAK-SA-12 multiple rocket launcher system. 12 electronic warfare stations and 3 ammunition depots were destroyed. The troops of the South Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions. Defeat was inflicted on formations of 2 mechanized, mountain assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements Sloviansk, Nikanorivka, Nikiforivka, Kostyadinivka, Stepanivka, Zakatny, Bondarin, and Seversk in the Donetsk People's Republic. The armed forces of Ukraine lost up to 50 servicemen, 2 armored combat vehicles, including a U.S.-made M113 armored personnel carrier, 3 vehicles, 2 field artillery guns, and a supply depot. The troops of the Center Group improved their position along the front line. Defeat was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 7 mechanized, 2 Ranger, an airmobile, 3 airborne assault brigades, a drone systems brigade, a special forces brigade, 2 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, a marine brigade, 2 territorial defense brigades, and 2 National Guard brigades in the areas of the settlements Rodinsk, Belitsk, Seryivka, Maryivka, Vesela Ora, Belozersk, Dobropilya, Artemivka in the Donetsk People's Republic, and Bashilivka in the Kharkiv region. In the settlement of Krasnoarmysk in the Donetsk People's Republic, units of the 2nd Army are successfully advancing in the eastern part of the city and the Dynas microdistrict, and continue clearing the settlement of Rovn in the Donetsk People's Republic. Assault groups have entered the settlement of Khrapovshchina in the Donetsk People's Republic. 10 attacks were repelled by formations of the 32nd Mechanized Brigade and the 425th Assault Regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine from the area of the settlement of Khrapovshchina in the Donetsk People's Republic aimed at relieving encircled units of the armed forces of Ukraine. Up to 35 Ukrainian servicemen were destroyed. In the settlement of Dmitrov in the Donetsk People's Republic, assault units of the 51st Army continue to drive the enemy out of the eastern and western microdistricts, as well as from the southern part of the city. Over 260 Ukrainian armed forces servicemen were destroyed in the Krasnoarmysk direction in one day. In total, in the area of responsibility of the Center Group of troops, losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to up to 450 servicemen, 2 vehicles, and an artillery piece. Units of the East Group of troops continued to advance deep into the enemy's defense. Defeat was inflicted on formations of 2 mechanized, 2 assault brigades, and 3 assault regiments of the Ukrainian armed forces in the areas of the settlements Zaliznik, Dobropilya, Verkhnaya Tersa, Varvarivka, Pryluki, and Uliapol in the Zaporizhia region. The Ukrainian armed forces lost up to 160 servicemen, 6 vehicles, and a warehouse of material resources. Units of the Dnieper group of troops inflicted defeat on personnel and equipment of a mechanized brigade and a coastal defense brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces in the areas of the settlements Stepnohursk, Kirovo in the Zaporizhia region, and Sadov in the Kherson region. Up to 40 Ukrainian armed forces servicemen, 7 vehicles, and a warehouse of material resources were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian armed forces groups inflicted damage on enterprises of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, fuel depots, pre-flight preparation and launch sites of long-range unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 143 districts. Air defense means shot down a rocket projectile of the U.S.-made HIMARS multiple launch rocket system and 230 aircraft-type unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, destroyed 668 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 99,690 unmanned aerial vehicles, 638 anti-aircraft missile systems, 26,318 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,622 multiple launch rocket system combat vehicles, 31,638 field artillery and mortar guns, 47,986 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.